The feint is one of the things that you can do to entice your opponent. But what do you do after you feint your opponent? How do you make sure that you land whatever punch you want to land? And so there are two simple but not easy feints that you can work on as a beginner to draw your opponent in and land the punch. You want to create a rhythm. And so with that rhythm, you want to make sure that all you're doing right now, you're just tapping a jab, tapping a jab. Tap, tap, tap. And so as you tap that jab, you're creating a rhythm. And so your opponent hopefully is getting ready to counter your jab. And so what you want to do, especially as a southpaw fighter, and you're in the ring against an orthodox fighter, you want to keep working on that jab, making sure that you're landing that jab either right at their head or right below at their chest. So you're going to tap, tap, feint, boom. And that's it. That's the very first feint that you should learn as a southpaw, is you want to build the rhythm of throwing your jab. You see, I'm not moving that much because I'm on the bag. It'd be a little bit different if I'm in the ring with an opponent. But what you want to do is you want to work on creating that rhythm. Solid jab, solid jab, solid jab, feint, boom. And that's it. That's very simple. And what I'm doing with that is you'll notice that as I'm throwing my jab, my hand's coming back. And what I do is when I feint, I drop my hand a little bit so I bait my fighter. And what I'm hoping he's doing is that he's going to come either with a straight left hand, which would be his jab, or he's going to come with a right hand. And so as I'm throwing that jab, feint, boom. What I want to do is I want to use his momentum against him. Because if he comes in just at the right time, when I shoot my jab, I use his momentum against him, I pop his head back, and then I can follow up with a left hand after that jab. But the very first thing I want to do as a beginner, and especially a southpaw, the feint I want to work on is I want to establish my jab. So I'm going to establish my jab. Feint. And that's it. And so as I feint, I'm going to shoot that jab after I feint as hard as I possibly can, so I pop my opponent's head back. Now the second jab you want to... Now the second feint you want to work on is to set up your left hand. And as I said, the jab is one of the most important punches in boxing. And all you're going to do now is you're going to build on the first feint. So you're going to do the same thing. You're going to work, set up the rhythm, shoot your jab. So what I did is I set up that rhythm. My hand comes almost all the way out there. My hand is down a little bit, so I don't hit up here with it. I come down, draw my opponent in, and shoot my left hand. And the reason is most likely he's going to try and come over my jab with his jab or possibly a left hook. And if I feint him, time it right enough, and I come through with my left hand, I stop him dead in his tracks, pop his head back, or if I land my jab just a little bit lower, which I'm going to do right now and show you, because you don't always want to headhunt because the head can move. The chest doesn't move as easily. So I'm going to set up the jab. I'm going to start from here. And so I went here, landed for the chest with my left hand. And I threw more of a long looping left hand because I know that I don't want to bring my head too close in when I throw that feint, because I'm expecting a jab to come, counter me over the head, or a hook to come. So I want to stop my opponent dead in his tracks. So as I shoot that long left hand, I want to be out of range so I don't get hit with anything. Let's put those feints both together that we learned. So the very first feint was, we're going to shoot our jab. So feint, shot a jab to the chest. And so there goes the next feint. Feint, shoot your left hand. And make sure that when you're shooting that left hand, you're not aiming for the head. Because if your opponent is coming with the left hand and you're fighting against the orthodox fighter, you want to stop them dead in their tracks. And you want to aim for this area, which would be like right here in their chest. Because if they're coming with a left hand or a hook, and they come down just a little bit, you're able to catch them either in their chest or right at the bottom of their chin with your left hand. What are your thoughts on those two feints? Now the feint is something that you can master over time, but when you work on the bag, especially as a beginner and a softball, you want to start out slow and steady. And how you do that is working off the jab. Feint the jab, throw a jab. Then you want to work off the jab, feint the jab, catch your opponent, expose your opponent, and drop your left hand. And make sure when you're shooting that left hand that you're not always head hunting. You want to aim for the chest, because if you're fighting an orthodox fighter and he comes through with that left hand, you want to make sure that you aim for the chest, you stop them dead in their tracks, or you catch them turning over. So as a orthodox fighter, if I'm shooting a jab and I come down here and I'm fighting a softball fighter and they shoot a left hand and they're aiming here, look where my head goes. My head goes right to where I want that left hand as a softball fighter to land. What are your thoughts? Let me know them in the comments down below. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe.